Yeah, so let's wait for some more time. I think we can start in 1 or 2 more minutes. So, okay. Yeah, so I think we can start the session now. Yeah, so a very good evening to all of you. As today is the first session of week 5. So basically, you all know that in today's session, we uh, generally discuss about the activity and practice questions of week 5. So as this after this week on the Sunday, I think you have your first quiz exam, right? Am I right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, so I would like to know that how many of you had gone through all of the weeks, like week 1 to week 4, because this is week 5. So, of course, in quiz 1, the syllabus is from week 1 to 4. So, how many of you have gone through all these contents regarding week 1 to 4? Okay, so I could see one or two hand raised in the chat. So yeah, the first of the information that on Saturday we have a session, revision session regarding the mock. So I would request all of you to come on that session and can see the basically why we are giving you the mock papers is that it's just we are giving you to familiar with the just to get familiar with the pattern how we are asking the question in the quiz papers. So just to get familiar with the pattern of the quiz question. So it will be very really great to see you all in that session, because it will be really helpful uh, for you to before sitting on in that quiz exam. Okay, so on Saturday the basically we are taking that session, revision session regarding the mock. So yeah, and on Friday I think we might expect faculty with us. So I think you can ask your queries regarding week 1 to 4. Anything you want to ask to them, you can ask. So yeah, so today basically we just discuss about, yeah, anyone wants to speak? Oh yeah, anyway, so yeah, basically on Friday, instead of having your SWI session, solve with instructor session, so we are expecting profs with us. So yeah, you can put queries your up over there regarding week 1 to 4. Anything regarding any queries, any problems related to that quiz, so you can ask to them. So today we just have our classical. We just take this session in our the way we taken before that Menti part. So you are also familiar with the Menti part, how we go on that. Okay, right. So yeah, we just selected some of the contents and some of the main points, or you can say at the main questions that you will be encountering this on week 5. So we had collected all of the main questions and just had wanted to had a good discussion on that. So that's why we had arranged this lengthy thing for you. So yeah, apart from that, if you have any queries regarding activity and practice, you can ask in between, or yeah, in between the session also. Any time you can ask it. Yeah, so Before going into the session, can I know that how many of you had watched the week 5 lecture video, and how much you have attempted the questions of activity and practice? Okay, first three lectures. So you had watched. Okay, okay, Pushpak, you had watched all, and how many questions you had attempted? Activity or regarding practice, all of you? Had you I could understand that this week is of a great rush, because all of the quiz and mock lab assignments, all of the things are coming next to next. So yeah, it's totally fine that if you are not done the not started the questions yet, so it's totally fine. So yeah, if okay, first three activity question sets. Yeah, yeah, that's totally fine, because I could understand the rush this week, because yeah, all the things are coming next to next. So that's not the problem. Okay, so it's great if you are watched it, and it's also fine if you're not watched it. So yeah, today's session is basically we are discussing some of the session. Yeah, okay, lectures, activity, all practice graded lab. No, not started. No, no, not a problem. Yeah, I have questions regarding week 5. I have questions regarding week. Yeah, yeah, you can. It is totally fine. You can ask it. So we have that mentee session to do today. So in between or before, you can ask it anyway. In between or anytime you want to ask. So any questions regarding activity practice you can ask, or we can also start the session, and in between you can also post your queries. So if it is fine if you could start the session, or you can post your question regarding activity or practice first. It's totally fine. Mehak.
Ma'am, I have like certain doubts on different topics instead of activity questions. Like I want to clear those concepts first.
Okay, so that is regarding week 5, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so which concept, which can you tell me some of the things you all want to ask?
So first one is API, and
Okay, API. Yeah.
second is difference between controller and action, and then CRUD CRUD system. Uh, I have doubt in these topics.
Okay, so this topic you want to ask. Okay, so see, if you are going into the first question, what you ask, what is API, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So see, in basically in week 6, we are going into details into what is an API, right? So here, I think we are just in your lectures, you are just getting familiar with what is a term called API, right? In the lectures.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is your specific doubt regarding API? What is an API? This is your question.
Yes, ma'am. Like I don't even understand what this term means.
Okay, so see,
Function.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so see, I'm just giving you some basic overview that what is an API. So, basically, API, what it does mean, application programming interface. So, see, in this name also, we are having that term application. So, from this term also, it is just on this term, application programming interface is just the software, kind of software, which act as an intermediary that between two applications. For example, let's say we have one application, right? We have an application, and we have two applications. So for that two application to talk to each other, we basically use that API. Okay, so if we talk in the basic layman terms, so see, there is one example that we had discussed in the previous sessions also, that see, basically let's say you go in a restaurant, Okay, are you getting me? You are, let's say you are going into the restaurant, and you had ordered some food from there. Okay, so you call that waiter. You call that waiter, and can that what the waiter does? That waiter writes your order, right, and goes to the chef, whatever the chef is. He tells to him that, okay, this is the order that the client is uh, ordering. So that chef, what that the chef is doing, his basically job is to cook the food. Okay, so what basically the waiter here is nothing but the API. It is a kind of API. See, the client and the chef, they let them assume as a application. So both of the application are connected with each other, or can communicate with each other with the help of that waiter itself. So in the same case, if we talk about API, so see, if you go into some details of API, see, whatever you if we talk about any application, let's say we are talking about an application of Google, or application of Facebook, any application you go, so there are some of the components that the application had borrowed from another application. Okay, for let's say we are going to an application, we opened an application, and we have a what we say, that we have an interface which is asking for a login. Okay, so you can notice that there are options for logging into Google, logging by Facebook, logging by this and that. So these are something that is implemented using the API itself. So that application is basically using the API of Google or API of Facebook. So are you getting me? One application is using a piece of code, a piece of software, which is implemented by the another application. So if two applications are communicating or using its code or software in between, or exchanging the functionality in between, that is basically done by the use of API. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So for in week 6 onwards, we go into very detail about what is an API. So that is all about API. API is nothing but a bridge. Okay, bridge. API is a kind of bridge between the software device, software. Okay, two software, or so two applications. It is a kind of bridge. So there are so many applications using uh, we can use different technologies and different programming language which use that API to interact with each other, right? For an example, uh, if I talk about how API works, so it is a kind of thing you had to go into details in further weeks, how API work, how it is created. For this point of time, you just have to know that what is an API, and why we are reading it. So basically, API is nothing but an intermediary between two applications. If one application wants to use a software, a piece of code, or a piece of software of another application, we use the API of that application. Okay. Are you
Ma'am,
getting
when
me?
you say applications, you mean web applications, not for desktop apps or
Can you repeat your question?
ma'am, when you say applications, do you mean it's only for web applications or is it also for desktop apps as well?
See, we are talking basically about the web application here. Okay. So we are talking basically about the web platform. So API using, because API is just, see, here there is an involvement of HTTP, right? We are sending requests to the server, we are getting requests, and this is all about a web. If we are using the web as a platform, that's if we are using HTTP as a protocol, That's why we are establishing the communication between the client and the server in this way only, right? So if we talk about API, so API, I'm talking about the web as a platform. It is also possible that we can use is as a desktop application or mobile application, but now at this point of time we are just talking about the web application, web as a platform, as application. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And your second doubt was what?
Uh,
MVC. Had you cleared with that API part?
yes, ma'am. I've
Yes.
uh, I've one question about CRUD. Like,
CRUD, yeah. Yeah, CRUD. What about CRUD?
how is it implemented? Like, I know it means
Yeah, yeah. So see, CRUD, we have one slide about CRUD. So how it is implemented it using HTTP, and how it is related to HTTP, and in an application, what a CRUD means, right? Basically, your question is what a does in an application, right?
yes, ma'am.
So yeah, we will discuss this point in one of the slide. So after that, if you are not clear with that, please tell me, and then we can discuss upon it also. Because we have one slide where we are discussing that how what is an HTTP, and how it is implemented using the CRUD, and what does a CRUD means in an application. So yeah, this is, and if you're fine that we can
Yes,
discuss
ma'am.
it now also, because I'm totally fine, but we can also discuss it in one of our slides.
Sure, ma'am. You can do that. Ma'am, one question is the difference between controller and action.
So it's what's it? It's an activity or practice question. In question, you are specific to any question or just an concept you are clearing?
Concept, ma'am.
Okay, so see, actions and controller. I think both are kind of similar thing. If you talk about an MVC, right? Are you done? Are you cleared with the concept of MVC? What is an MVC? What a model do? What a controller do? And what a view do?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are aware with the controller part, that don't you think that action is nothing but the controller?
Yes, but like a professor said that action and controller are two different things.
Okay, okay. So this thing, action and controller, right? Is there any question regarding it, or professor says in the lecture?
It's just a lecture, like video.
Okay, okay. Give me some time. I just get to that part which you are going, and then we can answer. Devi ma'am, you
Yes,
want
yes,
to?
I'm there to help
Okay, okay.
Neha.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, that what in videos also I have gone through that videos. So there, Nitin sir specified that controllers or whatever actions it has to be specified will be implemented by the controllers. For example, if you want to update any data in a table, or if you want to delete any data in a table, or if you want to do any modification like insertion in a particular place, whatever it may be, right? So that it has to be done by the controller, right? So actions are implemented by controllers.
Yeah, so there is no difference between
Yeah,
them, right?
right,
So
right.
yeah, this is a confusion, and you done? Are you getting that, Mehak?
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, there is no difference between the two. As Devi ma'am said that the actions are something that is implemented using controller. Okay.
And this last one more. They say that controller groups actions together logically. What does it mean?
Okay.
Uh,
Did you see the first diagram, origin of MVC that was described in the first video? Otherwise, I will
Yes,
show
ma'am.
yes, that model updates view. View sees the users, and you from user, whatever the users that has to be done, that will be done by the controller, which manipulates the model. Did you see that cycle?
Yes, ma'am.
So that cycle itself clears all the content. So whether you want to show me the same thing and explain how the actions are performed by the controller.
So user makes a request and
so for example, okay, as we have discussed earlier, there too he has given an example of what we have already discussed, student gradebook, right? Make.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So in the student gradebook, whatever the tables we are using, that will be represented as models. And that models, how you want to view it. For example, if you want to view the students, those who are greater than 60%, that is what the perception that will be shown to the user, right? So whatever updates that are available in that table or the model is nothing but what is the object we are using in the GUI application. So mostly MVC is used for graphical user interface applications. For that only we are using this MVC model. And this model specifies the objects that are represented as tables. For our example, that objects are represented as tables. So once we have categorize different tables, and these tables are stored in the database, that we know how to create the database and all that already have studied in the previous weeks. So now what we are going to do, what are the things you want to view from the already existing table comes under the view part. How you want to see, if you want to compare, if you want to see how many students are studying MAD1 course, how many students are studying MAD2 course, how many students are studying in the current semester with greater than 3 courses. Like that, whatever perspective of information you want to visualize will come under this view. And the controller part comes into place where the user need modification to the modification that is represented as actions that has to be implemented to the model once again. And from the model, once again, it will be shown to the perspective view of the users, right? So what that will manipulate, the controller will manipulate whatever the actions it has been specified. And that action has to be, for example, if you have completed 4th semester of your BSc degree, so 2 years of course, if you have completed and if you are leaving this course, automatically your information has to be deleted from the database. So that is done by the controller. Each and every action is related to a controller, or set of actions can be related to a controller. That is what he has explained in that particular video, specifying that once you have clicked an option, it may give some action commands to the controller, or if you give the submit button, the entire whatever options you have clicked in that page, all entire content will be analyzed and that will be given to the controller, right? So this is set of actions or a single action that drives the controller, so that that controller will manipulate the information. Either it is an updation information, or it is a modification, or it is a any deletion information, right? So that will be done by the controller, and once again the data will be given to model. That is what are objects, that object-oriented programming representation as tables, right? I think I made the
Yes,
question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
I have some questions regarding this MVC.
Okay.
Yeah. So the model, does the model and view directly interact between themselves, or they interact via the controller?
See, whatever information you are retrieving to your visual view, right? So for example, if you are executing a query and if you are seeing the output as a view, right? So it is not showing the entire table. Whatever columns you needed or whatever information rows you needed, only that particular information is displayed as the output. That is represented as the view, and that will be generated from the model. If you want to make changes, if your view is not satisfied by the user, for example, if there is some logical errors and if you want to correct it, I have to get the content like this, not like this. From the view, you will analyze it and you will give some more additional actions or instructions to the controllers that will do the manipulation, and that will change the model. There won't be any direct communication between the view and controller. Whatever the things you want to change, that will be taken by the controller as actions, and that will be implemented to the model. From the model only you can view the content once again, whatever the updates that are available.
Okay, got it. And in the lectures, we have taught that the controller handles the business logic, right?
Yeah, right. Because business logic. So, for example, as Sonal ma'am said earlier, API from client to API. How many? For example, if you take a web server, you cannot directly access the web server. You can access the web server only through its API, because the web server as well as the web server utilizing the database, that is backend for that API, right? So the communication logic will be handled only by the API. For example, if every day each of us are using Google at least for 10 times or 20 times, right? But whatever request we are sending, it will be landed only to the API of the Google server, not directly to the Google server. So it is like a gate, right? So it will know how to communicate. All the communication logic will be available in the API, how to communicate and how to maintain the session between each and every client that is making a connection to the web server. And so what you have specified as business logic, which is the communication between the server, web server, and your database, right? So that business logic will be taken care by the controller. So if you want, I will,
yeah. And ma'am, I was referring to some other sources in Google, and I found information that the model interacts with the database. It's okay. But then it says that model handles the data logic. So is there any difference between the business logic and data logic?
A model handles the database and
no, it's saying that model interacts with the database, and the additional it is saying that model handles the data logic and controllers, and from the lecture we got
data logic is different, business logic is different. Okay, I will show it by representing using diagrammatic. I will share my screen, just give me 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. You are on mute.
Okay, now can you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
Okay, now let's consider. So this is the model where our objects are available as I have specified, for example, tables. Right, and from this we are going for view, which can be presented for the user, and then here controller. Same diagram what you have learned in the video lecture, and from controller it going for model. Right, so whatever logic here you are using, it's only data logic, because So for our example, we have taken as tables. So what are the tables we have taken as previous example? Student table, and then course table, and then for example, right? So course table, student table, and marks table. So here only we will have only the data information, which student is studying which course, and what is the ID of that particular student, what is the name of that particular student. Similarly, here also what is the course ID, how many students have registered for this course. So only the data will be available in this mode. So that is known as data logic. Only data will be available. But the business logic comes from here to here. That means that is what I have specified, right? So that is represented as business logic. So if for this representation, let me show here. So this is client 1 and client 2, and then client 3, and you can consider this as client N. So we don't know how many number of clients are communicating to a web server at a particular time. And this is the API, and this is the web server, and this is the database. So obviously everything in the same place for our to represent what is business logic and what is this data logic and what is communication logic. I am showing this as separate one. So this is the database for the web server. So consider for our example, we are taking as Google web server, right? So the communication between this web server and the database, that is the backend data where the data is getting stored, right? So that communication is represented as business logic. So whatever things, for example, if you are posting any content to the, if you are writing some emails, or if you are storing some content in Google Drive, everything, that will be affect this controller, and the controller will store all the information to the database, right? So that business logic will come here. BL, just I will represent BL. And here, if you see here, the communication between all the clients to this web server, so request and response will be represented, and that communication logic will be handled by this API, application programming interface, right? So if you are developing a web server, definitely you have to program the API so that through the API, you can serve so many number of clients so the communication logic comes under this API, right? So it will, whatever the request and responses will be landed to the API, and this will be abstracted. That means the client will know how to connect to this API. That's it. It doesn't know how the web server is implemented and what are the databases where their particular. So they we know the perception of view of Gmail, right? Inbox will be there, and what are the new mails are available, right? How it has been organized and where it has been stored and all, not in our view perspective, right? So that and all abstracted, and that will be available only to the web server and then the database, right? So once you have clicked an email, and if you want to delete an email, these are some of the actions that what you are performing. So once the email is deleted, so temporarily it will be available in the trash folder, and after a few days or a few months, or automatically it will be deleted. That and all will be managed by this controller. So whatever actions, modifications you are specifying, so that is known as business logic, right? So data logic, only whatever the data, that will be handled by this data logic. And business logic, what actions you are going to implement in that data, that will be handled by this business logic. And the communication logic will be handled by the API between the client as well as the server. I think my handwriting will be a little bit clumsy. Just
Yeah, ma'am, got it.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can we call
And
go on.
Yes. Yeah, tell me.
And ma'am, in our the lab assignments, if we see the templates, the template folder is like view, the view, right? And And the
template folder is like what?
The view part.
View part. Okay. Okay.
And the Excel and the CSV sheet or the database, the SQLite database, that is like the is that the model part, or it is the model and database is different, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
so that is
what
what
is the
I told.
model?
This model and database is dependent. So that only I have given here. Student, whatever the information of student is stored only in the database, right?
Yes.
Model is for our example, we have taken the database as the entire model, which the objects are represented as tables. That's it.
Okay. And the controller is the inside the main, the name equal main. Inside that section, the logic we are writing that if student ID is this and course ID is this, then show this much thing. So that is the controller.
Exactly.
Okay.
No. Just if you want to show it, that will comes under view. Select some information and show it to the corresponding user. That will comes under view. If this particular student has passed and he is not studying in this particular branch, then automatically it has to be deleted. Deleting, modifying, or updating. For example, if your address, you have moved from one place to another place, then your address has to be changed. That modifications will be done, that actions will be done by the controller. Yeah, right. Select part exclusively handled only by the view. Just you are selecting and viewing the content.
Okay, then and one more thing, that when the request comes from the client, so where it goes, it goes to the controller or to the model?
Depends on the request. So the user, if the request is to modify the model, or the request is to just display the content, if it is for displaying the content, view will take part the content. Okay. If it is to modify the content of the model, then controller will take part.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And one small thing, that if ASCII encoding is mentioned in some question, then what should we consider, the 7-bit ASCII or 8-bit ASCII?
This is based on lab assignment.
No. Based on quiz. That like in quiz, if some question asks about the ASCII.
Week 5 quiz.
Quiz one, like in some question, if the question is related to ASCII, then what we have to consider, that 7-bit ASCII, it is 7-bit original ASCII or 8-bit ASCII? Okay,
that depends on how. So, for example, the question will have the options specifying that what are the different options will be available, right? Based on how many number of bits they have used in the options, you can decode it and you can check with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in one question,
so normally 7 bits will be represented for ASCII encoding. Specified here.
In one question, in the mock, in the 4 options, one is ASCII, one option was ASCII, and one option was original 7-bit ASCII. So in that case, we can I mean, understand that as the ASCII is 8-bit ASCII.
Okay, 1 minute. Let me confirm this, Sonal. Whether the quiz one due date is over?
Quiz one, no, ma'am. Quiz one is, I think, quiz one is on Sunday.
Okay. So if that is the situation, I cannot exactly pinpoint how to specify that. So I can give you how to identify it, right? So, but that and all you have to go through it, right?
Yeah, ma'am, can you open the mock quiz one, question number 7 and 8?
Mock quiz one. Okay. Sonal, do you have it with you?
Yeah, I can. Let me find on that way.
Okay. So that we can postpone this question to the end of the session, because today's session is purely based on activity and practice session. So we will postpone it to the end of the session. So after verifying it, we will let you know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One more student, yes.
Anyone more was asking about anything regarding this concept regarding MVC?
If we talk about desktop, can we call a home computer system an MVC model?
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. What you are saying?
Can we call like a computer system at home an MVC model as well?
So that is what already I have specified. So
Yeah.
MVC model is for purely GUI application based model. If you are writing a program, it's a text based or GUI is graphical user interface. Everything should be, so if you click here, you know what should be done by that particular page, right? So that is known as graphical user interface. And if you click a particular icon, you know that this icon is used for the particular purpose. So that is what represented here, and there should be a controller as well as there should be a viewing option as well as there should be a model to represent if it and it is only purely for a GUI application.
Yes. So, any more questions on this MVC model?
The SQL query part comes, that is in model, right?
Yeah. SQL query. Yeah. This is just all about the models, the databases. See, as ma'am Devi ma'am said that the model and databases are different thing. As a model communicates with the database, so that SQL part is just the database part. Okay. Yeah, so any more questions on this model is?
Ma'am, like a database, model communicates with database using SQL query. Is it true?
What you say? Yeah.
Model communicates with database using SQL query.
Yeah, that is also we have
yeah.
given an example, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But the for our programming purpose, we are using only that queries to understand. But if the application is consisting of graphical user interface along with the queries, then that will be represented as MVC model. Otherwise, queries can be represented as views. How you are using the queries, as otherwise controller is also there in queries, because we can able to modify the table as well as we can able to delete the information and all. But if it is integrated to a graphical user application like web pages, then it will be a full MVC model.
Yeah. I think we can start start the thing with Menti, right, ma'am?
Ma'am,
Okay.
one last question.
Yeah.
Can you explain the WSGI toolkit thing?
Okay, so see, WSGI basically is nothing but what web. Its full form is something called a web server gateway interface, right? So basically, it is a specification, or we can say it is a what do I say? It is basically describing how a web server will communicate with the web application. Okay, so see, in WSGI, it is when we are talking about application. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm not.
Hello.
Yes, I'm audible, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't hear anyone.
Okay, ma'am, I will answer this, Rakesh. So this WS, can you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this WSGL is for representing in the API for your program, what you're creating in the Python module, right? So for example, if you want to deploy a web application using Python module, you can use this WSGI toolkit to implement the API for your particular web application. It's a Python
Okay.
module to implement API.
So, what is the relation between the API and WSGI? I mean, can you?
No. Actually, it is not we cannot able to differentiate. It is a tool which is used as a Python module for implementing API or similar kind of software that lies between the client and the server, right? So normally we know API is a
Okay, so it is used to implement the API.
yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Sonal ma'am has left the meeting. So any other questions do you have in week 5? You can ask me. So,
How user and client are similar?
user and client, no, it's not similar in MVC model. For example, if the client only view part is accessible for the client, right? So if you take MVC model, so that is what I have drawn a diagram. From that diagram, you are asking this question, Divakar. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. If the user is client, automatically he is restricted to just to view the information. Similar to, so for example, we cannot have access beyond your student information that is available in IITM website. But those who are working in the team for that course, for business logic and all, they will have access to that controller. But as a user whose client only have access to the view, but if the user is developer, sorry, he can have all the views as well as the controller can be able to control by the particular user if he is a developer. Got it, Divakar?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
He can do a view and controller, right?
Can you please repeat it?
Ma'am, usually when a user is a developer, he can do both view and controller.
Yeah. Because by seeing the perception only, he can change it, right? So whatever modification he is going to do using the controller, by seeing the view only, he can able to see. It should not, for example, if you are doing your lab assignment, first your private test cases has to be analyzed. Sorry, excuse me. So your private test, first your public and then private test cases, something similar to that. So that is having some restriction, right? So if he is a developer, he has to know what should be done first and which should be hidden for the next session, right? So by seeing it only, he can do all those development. Okay, this is the perceptual view for the student. So we have to do like this. So he will change or modify by giving actions or instructions to the controller.
Same like if you are a developer, ma'am, like you can change and control the database.
Yeah, right. If there should be some changes, automatically it has to be done through the controller, and that will change the model. From the model, if the user is a client, he will see the perceptual view, what are the changes that is applied in the model through controller. So I think one more question in chat box. In lecture 1, professor mentioned Python does not have static data type, which breaks certain MVC property. So Hemant, whether it is week 5 lecture. So normally Python will not have any data type. Whatever values you are giving to Python, automatically the variable will be converted to that particular data type. What are those properties? Sonal, are you there? Okay. Week 5 lecture 1. So maybe it is based on controller. For example, here as I have said earlier, Python is having different. We cannot able to declare any data types for variables. But whatever values you are assigning to Python, automatically the variable will convert it to that. So I will show it in writing it in my screen.
And what is static data type?
So static data type is during compile time itself, the data type is determined. And if it is dynamic data type, if you run it if you are giving an input, that will change according to your input. For example, let me tell you now, right? So first let me clear that doubt. So for example, if you are declaring a variable x is equal to 5, automatically in Python, this particular x variable is converted into integer. Okay, whether you agree with this? Yes, all of you? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and after assigning like this, we can print x and check it. And after this third line itself, if you change x is equal to, yes, automatically now the variable has been changed to string, right? So before now if you execute the entire program, print entire program, since the Python is an interpreter, that means first line will be executed first, and then the second, after it, if there is no error in the first line, the second line will be executed, and this will be printed in the output as 5. Next, the third line will be executed, and now the x value has been changed to yes, and in the next fourth line will be executed, and it will be printed as yes. Right? So this will be the output of executing this particular program. So if you specify like this, because it is auto conversion of data type, that will affect the MVC property, right? That meaning is first itself we have to define the model specifying that there should be certain properties for the data. For example, as we have said earlier, student name cannot be an integer. It should be a string, right? So we cannot change because whatever the restriction that has to be there, that should be maintained in the model, right? So that is not allowed if you are using, so that properties will be violated if it is not allowing to, so how to say, because it is allowing all the values to be accessible for that particular variable, right? But here student name should be a string. Similarly, student ID should be an integer. We cannot able to change it. But Python is violating the properties. We can able to change the variable name such that whenever you are changing the name, that will reflect to the variable. It will not show any error because both are acceptable, and it is auto converting the data type, and it is storing, and it is showing the value too. right? So this is how it is violating the properties, so that only we cannot able to, that properties cannot be implemented in MVC using that Python, right? So first question is clear. Second question, what is static? Right now, we will see what is static now. So static is the representation represents static before execution of the statement itself. The value is assigned to the variable, right? But here we are not declaring any data type. So here we will say it is a static data type because we have assigned a value which is an integer value. So automatically Python interpreter identifies it as an integer and it will auto allocate that X is an integer variable, right? So X is a static data type. But if you represent X is equal to int of input, enter a value. Right? So if you give like this, automatically by seeing the statement, what it will do, it will come and wait for your input and it will show a text box to enter the data. Right? If it is a Jupyter notebook, or otherwise the cursor will wait for you to give an input. After giving the input only, it will go for the next line. Because Python is an interpreter, it will execute one line at a time, then only it will go for the second line. No compilation itself, direct execution, one line at a time. If there is no error, it will go for the second. Right. Okay. Now it is waiting for me to give the input. So after execution, based on the input given by the user, after execution, for example, if I give here as 5, automatically it will convert. So here it is integer, so it will not allow you. It will show error message. So if I give a value, once again I am executing, and if I give a value as 8, automatically it will be represented as integer and that will be stored here, right? So if I give so here I have specified as an integer, so that also you can think that it is static. So if I give only the statement without the statement, and I am removing this closing brace also. So if you give 5 here, automatically it will take, because input is default representation of string, it will take the input as 5. Right? So, defaultly it is specifying that it is a string value, it is known as static. So that only we are representing Python as a static data type, because this input function defaultly returns a value which is a string, right? So that is predefined in the library of Python. So since it is predefined as string, automatically the Python programming is represented as static data, right? Either you are assigning the value, based on the value, the variable will be changed, or even though if you give the input from the outside of, give the input from the user itself, automatically it will return the string value, so that it is static data, right? So that is what static and dynamic. But if you are getting an input from some other languages by executing during compile time, if the data type is declared, then it is known as static. But if you are giving a data during execution time, then automatically based on the data, the variable has to be type conversion should be applied, right? So that is known as dynamic data type. So for example, Python only using interpreter, that is what line by line execution. Some other languages like C++ and all, we are using compiler as well as there are two phases. First, we have to compile it, then only you have to execute it. So while compilation, if there is no error, then only it will go for the execution phase. So we will do this execution in two processes. Phase 1, first we have to compile the program and an object file will be created while compilation. Then you have to execute that object file. Right? So this is how, so while executing, if you are giving the data, automatically that is represented as dynamic data type. Here, since it is predefined, automatically it is represented as static data. Right? So I think some more questions. Is that clear? Yes, okay. Yes, Sonal, can you please take over?
Yeah, sorry, I was disconnected in between. So yeah, I can see one doubt in the chat. So this solution is just about that only, ma'am, right? The doubt in the chat, it's
No,
related to.
this is not related to the doubt in chat. Doubt in chat is also clear. WSGI is clear. So this
Ma'am,
is
before
related
that.
to static data type. That question asked.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the person who was asking is the now it's fine, right? Hemant, is it fine? Uh, I think it's fine now. Okay, so someone. Okay, so anyone else who wants to put some queries in? You can also post it on chat as well as you can ask it here also. Uh, if no one has to ask anything, then we could continue with that slides. Is it fine to go with that slides, or we can wait for 1 minute and if anyone asks anything, we can wait for that also. Okay, ma'am. I think we can go with that Menti. Now, can you stop sharing, ma'am?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen first. Oh, okay. I'm not able to share my screen. What's the issue? Had you own that Minty files with you?
No. I'm not having in this particular system now.
Okay, so
No,
I think I'm
I
not the
have enabled
co-host.
that multiple participant can share simultaneously.
Okay,
I
no,
think.
ma'am. I can see that I'm not the co-host. I think that's why I'm not able to share my screen.
Okay, who's the
So,
host now?
sir, is there the possible to make me co-host once again? I think I had disconnected in between and I had to rejoin. I think that's the problem. Okay. So, ma'am, is it possible to you to share that file?
Otherwise, we will make the discussion itself. If there is any queries, we will
Okay.
share
So,
it.
yeah. Yeah, okay, ma'am. I think I can share my screen now. Yeah. I'm able to share my screen. Thank you, sir. Okay. Let me go to that Menti. Okay, so you all can see my screen. My screen is visible, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so you can go to that menti.com and enter this code. And after that, we can go with that slides. Okay, so I'll wait for 1 to 2 minutes. I think I'm expecting all of you to just participate in this discussion. Okay, so 7 participants have joined already. So the code is 88428060. So if any participant is new, so I would like to tell the instructions. So first of all, you have to go to that menti.com. Just type in menti.com, and after that they had asked that code for you. That there you will have to enter this code, which is on your screen right now. That is 88428060. Okay, so I think we have 10 participants. Okay, 11. Just go to menti.com and enter this code and okay. So I think we can move to the questions. We have already 12 participants with us. Yeah. So who all are not joined yet? So you can join in and can see the question and can answer in the same time. This is the code and you can join in anytime. Let me go to the question first. Okay, so has the first question visible to all? What is URL?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so yeah, this is basically our first question. What is an URL? So I just wait for some time and then I'm expecting whatever you want to write or post, you can answer it and then we can have a discussion on. Okay, so I'll wait for some time and then we can discuss. Those who are not able to join yet, so please you can see that the code on the top of your screen. You can also use it now and can join and can answer it now.
Yeah, I will also post it in chat box.
Mama, I'm not able to see the chat. Okay, you can post it. Okay, I think we have 10 participants. So we can show the result.
So ma'am, there is a question in chat box regarding questions in quiz.
Okay, let me see what. Will these subjective questions in the quiz be eligible for partial marking? Also, will there be a particular keyword which will be checked out for the subjective questions? Yeah, there will be some kind of subjective questions in your quiz as well as the end term exam also. So yeah, you will got that partial marking with some of the keywords. Yeah, some of the keywords it has we have some criteria which had to be checked with depending on some of the particular keywords. So yeah, there is something called partial marking criteria with that subjective questions. So it will be coming on in the exams, and it is the uh, this kind of partial marking is in this is the thing we are just grading the students upon, that some of the keywords. Okay. I think we can. Yes. So these are all the responses from you. So let me read it first. Okay. So Devi ma'am, are you taking this question, or I can?
Yeah, I will take it. So uniform resource locator, it is the address of server which is used to extract a file from the server. Very good. Uniform resource locator provide a unique path to location of a particular resource. Very good. Similarly, uniform resource locator, address of a resource in a web. I think most of them have written it correctly. So now let me tell how this URL is represented and what are the parts of URL and what are the parts in the URL to be learned, right? So I will just present my screen to explain the same. So I think now I cannot able to present it, right?
Okay, ma'am. Let me stop
No.
sharing.
Yes, I can able to present it. Multiple sharing is there.
Okay.
Yes, can you able to see my whiteboard?
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Yeah.
ma'am.
I'm not able to see them. No.
But can you ping on my video so that I think you can share?
I can see the whiteboard.
So the thing is, you have to ping on the screen in because multiple sharing is going on. So you can ping on the screen where I am presenting. Okay, otherwise, Sonal, can you please hold it for a minute so that I can present it? Sonal?
Yeah, ma'am. I can see your screen right now.
Okay. What about others?
Now we can see.
Yeah,
we can see.
Okay. So URL is represented as universal resource locator. It is made up of several parts. Majorly, there are 3 parts. So that I will represent here. Scheme. And then host address. So that is what you have specified as a web address, right? And then finally the file path. So these are the 3 parts of the URL that is represented here. So first we will see what is scheme. So here in this scheme represents that there are we can able to use different protocols to access. So as all of you know, in starting of the week itself, you have studied about networking, physical day. So OSI model will be there, physical layer, data link layer, network layer, and then transport layer, and then session layer, presentation layer, and then application layer, right? So 7 layers of representation of OSI model, which is a reference model. But currently we are using this TCP IP model, where these 3 layers are combined into application layer, and a transport layer as it is network layer, and these two is represented as host to host layer. So if you refer many other articles, they will have different names for this data link layer and physical layer combined format, right? So this is how we are representing. So data link layer is also there. Data link layer, 5 layers: host layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, and application layer, right? So in this scheme, whatever the things we are representing, so URL is acting only to retrieve a web page content or whatever content we are requesting to the web server. So it is mainly used for the client server modeling. So what we are going to do here, in the application layer only the particular protocol is working, right? So here we can able to use either HTTP protocol, or we can use HTTPS protocol, which is secure compared to HTTP, or FTP protocol. All these protocols are working in application layer. For example, if you have learned about IP protocol, that is working in network layer, right? And TCP and UDP protocol working in a transport layer, right? So similarly, we will have different protocols that are working in different layers. So here this HTTP, HTTPS and FTP, all the protocols are working in application layer. Since we are using this URL to access the web application, which is the application, or obviously we have to use these protocols. Either you can use HTTP. So the difference between HTTP, so now and all our computer system is not supporting, because it will think that maybe a hacker site. So we are not able to access HTTP, but even though we can use this for local host address. So this local host address is to represent that you can self-reference your system as the URL for representing a local host. So you can represent HTTP ://localhost. And what type of, based on the application what you are running, the port number you can represent. So that port numbers will coming under the addressing scheme of transport layer. IP addressing will come in the network layer addressing, right? So localhost and then the port number. For example, here I will give 5000. Right, so this is also possible. Apart from this, if you try to open HTTP protocol without your web security, it will specify that it is risk, and if you want to accept that risk and all, right? So this is used to access it. Either you can use localhost or you can use the local loop address. Sorry. Local loop address that is represented as 127.0.0.1. Either you can use this IP or you can use localhost to represent the application which is running here, right? So either of this. Otherwise, also you can use the special IP address, which is 0.0.0. Right, so these are the things we can use for HTTP protocol. If you are provided with web security, HTTP will not allow you to access any websites remotely which are available, because it may, due to insecure nature, we cannot able to access this, right? So this is how HTTP can be used to the URL can be used to represent the own local system. So next is HTTPS. Here, whatever the data you are sending through this URL are encrypted. That is the thing. So even though there is a man in the middle, they cannot able to access your content, or even though if they have access to your content, they cannot able to see what is written inside that particular content. So next is FTP protocol. Even though HTTP is used widely in all application, FTP is also used widely for large file transfer. right? So we can also use FTP protocol for large file transferring. So here also we will have FTP and FTPS, where so normally FTP protocol itself, it will act in two ports. So how we have represented the port information like this. So these are represented as registered ports, but is not well-known ports. Here, what protocol? So here, if you represent 80, it is registered as well as well-known ports. Right, so 80 is assigned to HTTP. Similarly, 20 and 21 for FTP protocol. One to send the control information and another to send the data. Right, so this FTTPS will provide the channel. So since it is having two ports, there will be two secured channel that will be allocated between the source client and server, and using that secured channel, it will forward it, right? So here we are encrypting the data, but in FTTPS, the channel itself secured. So whatever the information is going inside the channel, that will be secured and it will be transferred to the server. Right, so that is the difference between FTP and FTPS. So that's all about key. Right, so we specified there are three parts. So for first itself, what we are representing, HTTPS : / right. So in the URL, this is the first part, and this first part we have seen what are the protocols can be used and what are the uses of that protocols to represent the applications and all. So next is host address. So host address is nothing but this host address consists of excuse me, World Wide Web Network representation as well as the domain name. Right, these are the two parts of the host address. Right, so for second thing we will take as host address. So which consists of two parts. One is represented as www and another is represented as domain name. Right, so www is nothing but it is since whatever the application that are available in the internet is accessed, then we have to use this. Right, whatever the information that is available in the internet, if you want to access this, because if you see here, while accessing my local resource, that is by accessing my local web server, I am not using www. I am directly giving that local host as the domain name, where this is the IP address of my local host, where the resource is available within my system itself. I am not giving www. So where www comes into picture, if you want to access a web application in the internet, automatically we have to use this World Wide Web Network, right? So this has to be followed with www. That's it. Okay, so and then the domain name, right? So here I have specified local host or the IP address. Both are forwarding the content to the same resource. That the resource is my own desktop or laptop, whatever it may be, right? So it is a forward. Either you can, so if you see local host, you can able to remember it. But if it is an IP address, remembering it is very difficult, right? So since it is a local host, by seeing this many times and executing your lab assignments for many number of times, you can well versed about this particular IP address. But think of the internet where we are having numerous number of web servers which are running, websites that are available. And if you want to access each and every website, is that possible to know it's each and every IP address? It's not possible. Remembering the IP address is not possible. So that only we are going for domain name system. So if I give www.iitm.ac.in, for example, right? So iitm.ac.in is the domain name, and this is the worldwide world. One second. sorry, right? So World Wide Web Network, and then this is the domain name for IITM, and that is represent. Instead of writing the IP address, I am giving the domain name as it is. After that, so that's all about the host address, how to represent the host or how to represent the next end, the destination, right? So that is represented as host address. Next, the file path. If you want to open a particular file, then that can be also represented here, https://www.iitm.ac.in/index.html. For example, I am specifying this. And if you are allowed to view this page, automatically you can able to see. So this is the file path in which the content, what you want to see. So automatically, whatever the content you are pressing in the particular web page, automatically the URL will be get updated, which file path it has to load, right? So if you have time while you are clicking on a particular web page, after clicking on the link or button, if you monitor the URL, automatically it will be encapsulated with the content, whatever you have pressed here, the file information, file path will be available here, right? So this is how the URL is represented in the 3 parts, and all the 3 parts are described here. I think I have made it clear. Any doubts here?
Domain name is the address of the server.
Not address. So there will be a DNS server. So what, for example, you have heard about GoDaddy and all? GoDaddy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what it is, what they are doing, what is their job for your business, they are providing a domain name with website, right? So they will maintain that domain name until how much amount you have paid, they will maintain that domain name, right? So what this DNS server, domain name server, what it is doing, it is mapping between the IP address and then the domain names. So here the IP address will be there and the domain name will be there. For example, if I am writing 162.128.4.5 and it is mapped to google.com, right? So google.com server will be available. For example, let us consider around the world, 7 servers are available around the world. So server number 1, server number 2, server number 3. So at different location of the world, different servers are available. Each server will be communicated with different IP address. All the IP address are formulated to this corresponding domain name google.com. Right? For example, if you see, so this you can experiment individually. You can log in google.com and see the status bar. So that is will be available in this left-hand side corner. It will show the IP address. Google.com, once you have given www.google.com and clicked on enter, you will see the status here. It will load the IP address of that corresponding web page. And same thing, you can do it in any other system. It may go for any other server to get the request. That IP address may differ, but whatever domain name you are using, google.com, that's it. So it's a mapping. DNS server will do this job. Mapping will be done by the domain name server.
Now, what is an IP address? I have confusion regarding that.
IP address?
Yes, ma'am.
IP address, just fulfill your question. What is the IP address? Just IP address you are asking.
Yes, ma'am. What?
Okay, then I will clear this and I will show. Okay, so IP address. So IP address is to represent, uniquely identify a particular device which is available in the network, right? So it is a logical address. And we have different versions, IPv4 and IPv6. So it is logical address which is used to uniquely identify internet connected devices or IoT, Internet of Things. Mobile is also an IoT kit, right? So, but we cannot specify computers, everything and all. So, internet connected devices. Whichever system that needs to be connected to the internet, then it should have IP address, right? So this IP address is working in network layer for routing purpose. So for example, if your client system, your system is here, so we are in India, and if you want to access a system or a website which is available, so consider it as a website which is available in UK, right? So there will be so many, so routers will be represented as circles with two arrows, double-headed arrows. So these routers functionality is to route the packets from, so the request, whatever request you are sending, it has to follow a path to reach the destination. So there may be different paths. So for example, I'm drawing 5 routers where the hopcount limit, for if you see the IPv4 packet format, there will be a header which consisting of time to live, TTL. So where the hop count limit is 50. Hop count is nothing but the number of routers it is passing through to reach the destination. If it is beyond 50, automatically the packet will be discarded from the network, right? So all these things will be done in the network layer. So this IP address is also forwarding the content using this representation, right? So I can explain this with a small one more diagram so that it will be clear. You can get a clarity over there, right? So normally in a network, this is the client system, and we can also having switches or hubs that is available, as well as routers, which is layer 3 device, and this is layer 2, that is data link layer device, layer 3 network layer device. Like this, we will have so many number of devices, and again switches or hub. Hub is multi-port hub is represented as switch, that and all we can see it later. And then here is the destination. This is the source and this is the destination. And here we are having so many number of things to be passed over, right? So this host-to-host communication is represented as node-to-node communication is represented using data link layer using the MAC address, right? So this host, this is one host and this is another host, that is the source and destination. Communication between this host and host is done using this IP address, where the IP address comes into place, right? So this particular system, this is the source IP address and this is the destination IP address, and this packet will be forwarded through all the devices, networking devices which are available in between, but the destination is clearly specified, so it has to reach the destination. That part will be taken care by the IP address. So MAC address is nothing but the physical address which will be available in the NIC card, right? So that provides node-to-node communication, but this provides host-to-host communication, IP address. Then comes the port address that is available in transport layer. What it will do, so in this host, a particular process, for example, if you are communicating with a Word file, right? So Word is a process, same process has to be communicated with this. Otherwise, if you are communicating with the program which is like running the client part and here the server part, both port numbers has to be same for the communication to be established, right? So that a particular process in a host communicating with another particular process in the destination host will be implemented by this port address, right? So this is coming for the 4th layer addressing. Layer 2 addressing is hardware addressing or media access control access addressing, which will be available in network interface card. burnt in network interface card, and it is a 48-bit address, right? And host to host communication, that's the source is going to communicate to this particular destination, that will be determined by the IP address, which is of 32-bit or 128 bits. 32 is of version 4 and 128 is of version 6. And then next, within the host, a particular process has to communicate with the same process for the same application in the destination. That process to process communication will be done by this port addressing. So that is what already we have specified, 5000 if it is running over there, right? And then for HTTP protocol, we have seen the port number is 80, and for FTP, we have seen 20 and 21, right? So these are well-defined port numbers, and these are registered port numbers, right? So we should not need to consider much more about it. This is how addressing takes place. 3 levels of addressing. First level, data link layer level, hardware addressing. Second level, network layer level, which is represented as IP addressing. And then final is transport layer addressing, which is port addressing, right? So here comes IP address to forward the packets from the source to destination. Unique identification of host in the different part of world which are connected in the internet. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, what does a subdomain mean? Subdomain name.
Subdomain name.
Yeah. You know, in the host address,
Okay.
one portion they call it as domain name.
Okay.
Then some portions they name it as subdomain.
So that and all. So here also I have specified, right? IITM.ac.in. So these AC and in are coming under subdomain names. IITM represent particularly to Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and here it is an academic institution and it is within the India. So these are representing the subdomains that are available within that domain. So, okay. But the entire thing is represented as the domain.
Okay.
Ma'am, if we don't write google.com domain name, instead we write the IP address of that Google, will it work?
That you can do it directly with your ping command, but you cannot directly do in your URL location, right? So normally what you will do, you will open google.com, and otherwise you can open the web browser, either it is Google Chrome or Mozilla or whatever it may be, and type it in the URL location. This is what we will do. That is URL. But this ping command, so that is what I have specified. If you type google.com, here you can able to see the IP address just for few seconds only. It will be available. Connecting to that particular IP address, you can see that information here. Any website you are connecting, automatically it will show the IP address over here. You can experiment it, and after seeing that IP address, you can make a note of it, go to the terminal, and then use the ping command, ping, and then the corresponding IP address. For example, 192.168.4.1. So 32 address means automatically it is of 4 bytes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for each byte is of 8 bits, so totally 32 bits, right? So if you type 192, obviously it will return the path. So ping is nothing but it is an ICMP protocol, Internet Control Message Protocol, that will send more number of requests to the server. And once the reply is reached, automatically it will send this request is sent, and immediately the response is received. You can see it and experiment this using ping command. But in the URL, if you give directly the IP address, it will not allow you, because it may think that you are trying to hack a particular website and all. So it will block you. Because obviously we are using HTTPS, so it will not allow you to directly enter, but that you can check with your local host by representing it. Otherwise, if you have implemented a website using a particular IP address, you can use your own IP address. If config or IP config, if you use this command and check your IP address, and then you can use inspect of local host, you can use your own IP address. In that place, HTTP:// and you can use your IP address and check it out, right? So once the domain name is available, you can check the IP address whether it is reachable using this ping command in the terminal mode. You cannot directly see it in the URL because it is
and we cannot have a domain name for our computer system. Like we cannot have a domain name for that.
Yeah. If you want to get a domain name, either you have to use any third party like GoDaddy, or if you want to create a domain name, you have to register with the domain name server.
So server will be a computer system in that case.
Yeah, but it is more power to store information and retrieve information fastly compared to a computer.
Sorry, I didn't get, like, where will the information data stored? Because if I make a website, then I can open that website from my phone or a laptop. So what will be the server in that case? Will that be
So that server, whatever web server you are creating for your purpose, since you are giving one request from your side, that request can be processed within microsecond and you can get the response for it. But if you are designing for your college, or if you are designing for your any organization, the load will be very high. Then you have to buy for a web server separately, and that cannot be an individual laptop or individual desktop system. It will hang over if it is more number of requests or handled by the particular system. That cannot be done.
Okay. So basically, I cannot have my computer as a domain name and as a server.
You can represent domain. See, first let me clear out what is your doubt is whether you want to convert your IP address into a domain name, yes, or whether you want to implement a web server using that domain name in your laptop itself, and if it is want to be accessed by many of the students. Both. Then obviously you have to register for any other third party like GoDaddy or any other service providing Amazon or Google or whatever it may be. So you have to register and you have to get it. To get the domain name. Otherwise, you can also do it provided if you have a web server in your organization. You cannot do it directly in your laptop. That you can do it, but it is not a production server. It is only for a development server side, right? So you can use it for your project representation, not for production purpose.
So if I give a name like mysite.com on GoDaddy, so mysite is a domain name of my computer then?
Yeah, sure. Uniquely, they will create a domain name for you, and that domain name will be your computer. And if it is more number of requests is coming over there, and if you are not able, and that domain, if you want to get a storage also, you can offer it as a cloud. That also you can do it, right? That service also you can get it as a third party service. You can also store the database. A backend purpose also you can get it from the cloud like GoDaddy also, or any other services, and then you can also do it there. But what type of service you are going to do? Either you are going to deploy your application, right? So there are different types of representation out there that will come under cloud, right? Whether you are going to use software as service, or platform as service, or infrastructure as service, right? So based on these three services, which service is requested for you, you can do for it. So software as service, everything will be provided by the third party. Only thing you have to access is similar to Gmail, Google Drive and all. Everything is available. Only we are utilizing the application. Platform as service, the middleware as well as the backend, everything will be provided by the provider. You have to deploy your application on the top of this available operating system. And then infrastructure as a service, only the backend, that is the infrastructure, will be provided. You have to choose your own operating system and you have to construct your platform. In that platform, once again, you have to deploy your application, right? So that will big process. Infrastructure as a service, the major of the control will be with the client side. Platform as a service, only the application control. Software as a service, nothing is there in our control. Google will, for example, I have told Google, Gmail and all, everything is under the control of Google. All the information, whatever we are specifying, will be available in the third party site.
Ma'am. And ma'am, last question, what's the difference between IPv6 and IPv4?
Okay, so that is what already I have specified. Only the, that is the case. What we are representing here in IPv4 is 32 bits, where the address space limit is very much less. So 2 power 32 is the maximum address space that can be represented using IPv4. Which is very much limited, so that we are moving for IPv6, where the IPs are represented as 128 bits. So 2 power 128 systems can be represented. Since the network is going day by day, it is increasing. Thousands of systems are connecting to the internet. So we are moving on to this IPv6. But even though we are using this IPv4, using the subnetting concept, we can able to connect more number of systems, right? So subnetting concept reduces address depletion. So address depletion means unused IP address can be reduced by using subnetting. So unused IP address, so that as I have specified earlier, there are classful and classless and all. So it is a big chapter to represent. Right, so in IPv4, we are having two categories, classful addressing and classless addressing. Right, so classful addressing, we are having class A, class B, class C, class D and E, where D and E are not used and it is blocked for the future use. Up to A, B and C is available. And here we can able to connect class A. The first byte is represented as network portion, and the remaining bytes, 3 bytes, are represented as host portion, HHH. Right? So that means you can able to connect 2 power 8, 16, 24. 2 power 24 systems can be connected using class A type of networks. And class B, first 2 portions are network portion. And then the second, third and fourth are represented as host portion. Right? So we can able to connect 2 power 16. And similarly, class C, first 3 portions are represented as network portion. Network, network, network. And the last portion is host portion. We can able to connect 2 power 8. For a particular network IP address, we can able to connect 2 power 8. Right? So that is how the representation differs. So address depletion is what? For example, if you are going to connect 400 systems, if you want to establish an organization which consisting of 400 systems, then obviously you will choose class B, which is 2 power 16. So 2 power 16 will it's much greater than 400, right? Much greater than 400, but it is somewhat greater than class C, right? So, but for that we are moving to 2 power 16 means the remaining system, that is 2 power 16 minus 400. this particular portion is known as address depletion. Only for 400 system, we are going for class B, and the remaining systems or remaining addresses are unused. That unused addresses are represented as address depletion. This can be solved either by subnetting or by moving on to IPv6 addressing. The subnetting, what it will do, it will reduce the, it will borrow some host portion from the network portion, right? So for example, you can implement this organization address in class C itself, but using subnetting concept. What you will do, how many bits to be borrowed? For example, let me see. I need 10 bits to represent. Normally, all the things, whatever we are representing is in binary notation. So that I will show it here. So class C represent first 3 portion as network portion. So 8 ones should be represented here. 8 ones. And then why it's not changing? I don't know why the eraser is enabled and nothing else. It's not able to get that. Okay. So that is the difference. Mainly we have to reduce the address depletion. Address shortage is for IPv4. So that only we are moving on for IPv6, right? So host portion will be represented as zeros and address portion will be represented as, host portion will be represented as, once again I will stop sharing and then once again I will connect. Okay, I think it's working now. Right. So 1111111 dot 111 000. Right. So this is what it is represented in class C representation, right? So class C, network portion, network portion, network portion, and host portion. Network portion is represented using 1 and host portion is represented using 0 in binary values. And if you are going to do subnetting, what we have to do, we have to borrow some bits from network portion. Right, borrow some bits from network portion. For example, I need 3 bits to be borrowed. You can borrow this to the host portion. Since you are borrowing this, you can represent this as all remaining things is represented as it is. 8 ones, 8 ones. And here 5 ones, remaining 0, 0, 3. So I have borrowed 3 and then 0, 0, 0. So this can be represented in classless notation also, like /8 plus 3, 12. Whether everyone is listening? Sorry, 11. Slash notation, 11. Right? So that means we are borrowing 3 bits from the network portion. And then now you can able to connect 2 power 11 host to this particular network, right? So compared to 2 power 8, we can able to connect 2 power 11. So 2 power 8 is 256. So 2 power 11 is greater than 256. Obviously, it is greater than 256. So how many number of system you want to connect based on the number of system, you can do the subnetting. And supernetting is the concept which is reverse of it. The network portion will borrow some of the bits from the host portion. That is known as supernetting. If you want to merge so many number of networks into a single network, then you can go for supernetting, where it will be merging and then it is borrowing the bits from the host portion to the network portion, right? So either through subnetting, we can solve the address depletion. To increase the address space, we are going for IPv6. Right. I think topic has gone somewhere else. Is any doubts regarding this? IP is that clear? IPv4 and IPv6?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sonal, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. So any questions regarding this particular topic? So you can ask her now. Because
some of them, they are saying 7 o'clock we have another session.
Okay, it's already 7 o'clock, and unfortunately we can't take more questions. We had many questions remaining, but I guess won't be able to deal with them today. So if there is any doubt which regarding this activity practice or any within the session, you can ask, or we can close the session.
So those who are going for PDSA session, you can leave. Others, if you have any queries, you can ask it.
Yeah. Okay, I think they have another session after 7, so that's why.
Okay. Then
So it's possible we can discuss that questions in another session if possible. Okay, so I think there is no questions. So, ma'am, are you asking something?
No, I am not asking anyone.
Okay.
No, Sonal, nothing from my side.
Okay. So I think we can close the session if no one has nothing to ask. So. Yeah, okay. We can take that questions in another session, possibly. Okay, so yeah, thank you all for joining in the session. And I'm hoping that you will be attending the session on Friday as well as Saturday. And all the best for your quiz fun papers, or that is on Sunday. So I'm hoping that you are preparing well for that also. So yeah, thank you for coming to the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sir, we can close the live session as well if possible.